Hello, in this video I'll be showing you how to download your data that you have collected using your survey, and then I'll show you how to interrogate that data and process it. So, first things first, I'm in Google at the moment and I'm logged in. I'm logged in as Arthur using my Monash College uh, account, using my Monash College email address. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click here on Google Apps and then scroll down and go to Forms. This is a survey I conducted earlier and I called it Student Survey 2020. I got a fair few results, a fair few responses. I go across here and I click on Responses. And then while I'm here, I click on this green button here, View Responses in Sheets. And these are my responses. I actually got a bit more data than that, but what I did is I deleted the email addresses. Anyway, these are the responses from my survey. And the next thing I'll do is I'll go to File, Download as an Excel spreadsheet. And an Excel file now exists in my Downloads folder. So I go to Show in Folder, and there it is there. That's the file that I'm speaking of. Well, I open it up. I just double click it. And there is the file in Excel. I'll click on Enable Editing. And what I'll do is I'll click here on this B column and I'll do a right mouse button click over B, the column header, and I'll just click Delete. And that is the last time I will ever make changes to my raw data coming from my survey. I will not make any more changes of any kind to the survey results in this sheet, this worksheet. I go down here to the tabs and I type in raw data. I double clicked and then I typed in raw data. And then I make a new sheet. I just click on this plus button here. And in this section, I'm going to be analyzing gender and age. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to double click in sheet 1 and call it gender and age. Then I'll go back to my raw data. And it's here where I've got my data relating to gender, and I put my finger down on control, and it's here where I've got my age data. And what I'll do is I'll copy that, click on gender and age, click here in C5, do a right mouse button and paste it. And I'll create a proper table. I'll create a proper table. This will be called gender. This will be called age. It's in years. And this is student data or student info. Uh, I'll give it some sort of a title, student data. Probably come up with a better one. What I'll do is I'll highlight these two cells here and I'll click on merge and center, and then I'll click here so that it's centered vertically as well. I move my mouse to the left in between the border of row 4 and 5. Student data is right smack in the middle there. These 3 cells, it's really 4 cells, I make them bold. That's my title and column headers. And the whole structure, well, I'll just click here and put borders around it. And that is a perfectly formatted table. Now, from this table, I'll make another table. So I've got gender, and I've got, and the gender, of course, is male and female. And what I'll do here is I'll obtain the sum of the ages. I'll obtain the frequency or the count of the number of males and females. And then in that last column, I'll get the average age in years. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the sum of all the ages if they are males. I'm inside cell G7 and I press the equals sign and I say sum if, open the bracket, and I highlight, well, I need to highlight the range first and then the criteria. Now, I think what that means is I've got to highlight this column here, comma, and I'm looking for male, F7, comma, and the next argument, I need to get the sum of the ages if they are male. I'll just close the brackets. I'll press enter, and that's the sum of all the male ages. I'll just double click in there again and turn these addresses to absolute addresses. Turn these addresses here to absolute addresses. I just clicked on the F4 button on my keyboard. On an Apple Mac, it'd be, I think it's function F4. And then I'll auto-fill down, and works beautifully. Now that's the sum of the female ages. And now I'll work out the number of males. I'll count the number of males. I'm in the cell H7, and what I'll do is I'll use count if, open bracket. Now I'll just count the genders here, comma, and inside that column I'm looking for male, and that is the number of males. I'll just double click in there and put $ here. I don't want that address range to change during any autofill operation. Number of females, well, that's 5. And finally, I'll get their average ages equals inside I7. And what I'll do is I'll say this number divided by this number. And that's the average age for the males. This is the average age for the females. I might show some consistency. I'll just highlight these two. I might decrease the decimal places until I get about 1. Yeah, that'll do. So the ages are very similar. Males just a little bit older. I'll just highlight all these cells here and merge, and I'll click in there and say average age. Now all these are bold, and the whole thing is in cells that have got borders. Now I've got two perfectly formatted tables. And the next thing I'll do is I'll make a graph. Now I might go for a column graph, might go for a simple bar graph. I might just highlight gender, male and female, keep my finger down on control and highlight those ages there. And then what I might do is I might click on insert and make myself a two-dimensional bar chart which shows off the difference, displays the difference between the two genders in terms of their age. Very similar. That graph exaggerates the difference actually. But anyhow, what I'll do is I'll add something to this graph that's very much needed. I'll click on Design, go to Add Chart Elements, Axis Titles, Primary, Add Chart Elements, Axis Title, Vertical. Here I am in the formula bar with the vertical axis title highlighted. I'll type in gender and I'll just double click here in the x-axis title, the horizontal axis title. I'll type in age in brackets years, and then I'll click on the chart title. I'll double click in there and I'll type in student age or student's age. Well, it's not much of a title, but it certainly has a title. What I've got there are two perfectly formatted tables and one perfectly formatted graph. And that's what you do throughout this process. I leave the raw data alone. I make no changes here. I destroy no text or numbers here. I don't format at all here. Just leave it alone. And if I want to process something, I copy it and I paste it somewhere else. Now the next thing I'll do is I'll work out something relating to gender and love of Melbourne. So again, I'll click on that plus sign, make a new sheet, and this is all about gender and Melbourne. So I'll double click in there and I'll type in gender and Melbourne. Yeah, that's what I'll do. And then I'll move along, go back to raw data. I'll get that gender data, and this here in column D is about how my students feel about living in Melbourne. Now, 0 meaning I hate it, 10 I love it. So I'm going to highlight the gender data and how people feel about Melbourne data. I copy it, go to gender in Melbourne, go to C5, do a right mouse button, and I paste it. Make it a little bigger. My column there is gender and how I feel about Melbourne. Look, I might just leave that as is, but I'll just click here and then I'll do a wrap text. And then I'll click where gender is and put it in the middle. And then I'll highlight this and again I'll call it student data. But before I do that, I'll merge and center. Center on the x-axis or horizontally, center vertically as well. I'll go to the border between 4 and 5, rows 4 and 5. Double click in there and I just type in student data. Well, that's what it is. Well, or I could type in student responses. Yeah. Anyhow, I'll highlight this, bold, make it a little bigger. There you go. Now that is a perfectly formatted table. Now the thing is that from this, I want to work out a couple of things. I'm interested in the two genders, but what I want is I want their average, their average love of Melbourne. Yeah, that's what I want. But how do I do that? Oh, by the way, in F7, that would be gender. Now, I think I'll do this using average, using sorting. Now, what I'll do is I'll just highlight this area here. I wonder if Excel will understand. I'll click on data, and then I'll click on sort. And then I click here, and I see, yeah, look, it does understand. I want to sort by gender, then I'll add a level, and then I want to sort by how my students are feeling about living in Melbourne. And I'll click OK. I mean, the good thing is that my data has understood the headers, the column headers, gender and how you feel about living in Melbourne. These are being sorted, well, the gender by in A to Z and the numerical data smallest to largest. So they're both ascending. I'll click OK, and the data has been sorted really well there. And to work out the average for the males, I'll just say equals average, open the bracket, and I'll highlight this area here. I'll close the bracket. And for the females, I'll just say average, but it'll be a different average. Highlight this area here. Just for the females, the average for the females. Yeah, and that's how you can do it. I mean, you can work out the maximum and the minimum, but that'd be obvious really just by looking at it. I mean, what I've done is I've used sorting to help me solve a problem and just use a very simple function called average. And right across here, I'll say, well, I'll go back to home, I'll merge and center, and here are some more student, well, this is all about gender and Melbourne, isn't it? But some sort of a heading. They're all bold. The whole thing is in borders, got borders around it. And so I've done quite a few things here. Uh, Under gender and age, I used sum if, I used count if, and I used a formula. I also showed some consistency when it came to decimal places. And in gender and Melbourne, I used some sorting and I used the average function. You know, in this, I could highlight these and you'll be able to appreciate the ascending nature of the numerical data. I'm going to go to Home, Conditional Formatting, Data Bars. I might use the green data bars. And as you can see, the bars get longer when you look at the block of female numbers. And yeah, the data bars get longer here as you go down when you look at the block of numbers attributed to the males. I don't know whether we can conclude that much here, but it does appear that the males love living in Melbourne more than the females. I might decrease the number of decimal places there just to show some consistency. But this is what I'm doing as I'm moving right throughout, um, working through this assignment, going to the raw data, finding various columns to try to solve some problems or look for relationships, copying them and pasting them. I've already found some relationships here. I don't know how strong these conclusions are, but yeah, look, the males seem to like living in Melbourne more than the females, and the males are older than the females.